All right, we're live. Welcome. And we are joined here by our lovely guests. But I'll reserve the honor for you. Go ahead and introduce yourself to the chat and, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I am your technologic and biotronic Rulelord Pete. I am host of Rise of the Rulelords, as well as one of the mods on the Pathfinder 2E subreddit.
All right, cool.
That's
And
my intro.
what are some of the projects you work on? Where are some of the fun things you're doing right now?
Well, if you can call it fun, I'm moving. Which is like, it's a cool thing. I broke the millennial curse of not being able to afford real estate. But then I also get all the joys of owning your own place that you have to invest in, such as painting, trying to get a constant smell of cat out. And so that's been preoccupying a lot of my month this month. But once I'm there, I'll get to have like freedom, my own game space. I'm planning to build a custom gaming table for my local group, and then I'll get to actually put up like real shelves so that I can have all my fancy books and stuff placed really nicely. And then after that, I want to A, continue my podcast, and B, want to contribute some more to Pathfinder Infinite. Have some ideas for various projects, and I need to make them stop being just ideas and make them into actual things that people can interact with, because it's not real until you actually take that first step of making it.
Yeah, no, you know what? That's something I very much agree with. This channel has been a testament to the same ideal because, like, I know I wanted to do something. Whoa, hello. Got to follow. That sounds so loud. Thank you, Dan the Bearded Man, for subscribing on YouTube.
Thank you, Dan.
And I think that's a lot of the Pathfinder space in general, especially, well, the tabletop space in general, but the Pathfinder space, I feel like, especially recently, has been emerging onto the online sphere.
And some people are happy about it. Some people are bound and determined to squash it. But it's Pathfinder 2nd Edition is here, and the one thing I'll say is, in regards to recent controversy, is just play it. Just try Pathfinder 2nd Edition out, and you're probably going to like it. And that, more than anything, just trying it out is going to help the game grow, help the community grow, help us all find players and GMs so that we can play our cool little niche game.
You know what? Exactly. And that's also exactly what I want to do as well. Is I feel like the TT RPG space, I mean, we've had a big renaissance, and I think it's kind of plateauing a bit. Maybe it's kind of going down a little bit. Just the space has been discovered, but now what's keeping people's attention? And there is very little in the space of, like, at least online right now, community-based channels or community-based kind of, I guess, initiatives to get a bunch of people to actually play and talk. A lot of it is just everyone is kind of doing their own thing, talking about the game they love and all that kind of stuff. And I know in the Twitter space specifically, there is a lot of people who are getting together and promoting each other and doing all kinds of really wonderful things. But that's not visually represented anywhere online.
There is a brand new Pathfinder 2e community on Twitter. It's like a Twitter community, which I guess is Twitter's version of like Facebook groups, which I have retweeted, and I can retweet it again on my profile. If you're on Twitter and want to join that little sphere. I don't know what's going on Facebook because I have not had Facebook for the last year, and it's been wonderful.
Yeah, Facebook's kind of dying out, to be fair.
Relatable.
So
Yeah. But our 2E subreddit is growing strong. One of our mods gives us numbers every month about traffic. We are constantly breaking unique views every month, especially after the wake of Beginner Box Day.
yeah.
And we've grown to more than, I believe it was 44,000 that we just recently passed, which, relative to other subreddits, that's pretty small, but considering we're a 2-year-old subreddit, that's some pretty spectacular and regular growth.
Yeah.
It's really good to see the community is still active. It's incredibly active compared to some other spots that I look at where nothing really changes day to day. Every day that you go to the 2E Facebook 2E subreddit, the front page is different because there's always new topics, memes, videos, podcasts. It's frankly exploding, which is good. It means that our mod team has had a lot more work on its hands trying to figure out how we're going to interact with some of this new content, new ways that people are interacting with each other. Sometimes, mods gotta do what mods gotta do, and there's bad apples that we have to kick out. But on the whole, I have always seen the 2E subreddit has a reputation for being one of the most positive places on Reddit, not just gaming Reddit, but Reddit in general, which is awesome.
For existing on Reddit, that is big. That's a big thing to hold.
It's a pretty cool little gold star that we mods get to put on because we put a lot of effort into trying to figure out like what rules to enforce. We're a really great team. All of us have our own specialty. Some people are more managing the Discord. Some people are more managing the Reddit. We have half of our team are Australian, so there's people on there at all times of the day, trying to keep the community a safe and welcoming space. And we talk to each other. That's something that I don't always, I guess, isn't regular with some mod teams, is that we're on every day, not just talking about like who to ban or whatever. We're talking to each other, getting to know each other, and when we have questions, we ask questions of each other and get feedback. I think that's how we've helped keep such a good environment, because we don't always go with the knee-jerk reaction. We try to get someone else to come in, look at the same post, and get a read on it too. Like, see, is this an offense that is, means that we should remove it? Do we need to make a new rule in response to it? I'm technically the top mod, but to me that means very, very little, because it just means that I have like control to kick all the rest of the mod team out, but it doesn't make me any more important than any of the other team. They all do, frankly, a lot more work than I do on the subreddit. I work to make it pretty, make the explore all the new tools that Reddit is adding to make the user experience better. But a lot of other people are doing like the real groundwork of responding to reports, pouring through 100 comment threads to make sure that no one's saying Nazi crap And the fact that we all pull weight in different ways has helped tremendously, and I'm very grateful that we have the mod team that we do.
Yeah, and you're such a positive horse, especially when it seems to come to the Twitter sphere, which I'm more familiar with because I spend way too much time on Twitter nowadays. When you do any kind of content creations, it's almost a must because that's the sphere where a lot of other people work, and there's still a fair healthy number of consumers on Twitter as well. So it's one of those things where you kind of have to. But so I'm very unknowledgeable about like Reddit and generally how it works. I'm not an online talking kind of guy in general. I'm really terrible at it. I've had to overcome some obstacles just getting on Twitter recently. But what to you is like the quintessential Reddit experience? Like, what is being on Reddit to you?
What is being on Reddit to me?
That is a tough question for anybody.
Yeah. I mean, the way that I framed it to the mod team when we were making a pretty significant change in how we handle our content, our tags and stuff, is that we are the bulletin board of the internet. Everyone else posts their content wherever it is, whether it's Twitch or YouTube, whatever other platforms are out there, TikTok, which as a millennial, older millennial maybe, is new and scary to me. We know that, a lot of places try to be like a forum and they only allow discussion. But that's not how people interact with anything anymore. It's a mixture. It's pictures, it's videos, it's podcasts, it's music, and discussion. So it's about mixing all of those things together. So I think that we serve as the place where all that stuff is amalgamated. The one-stop shop where if you want to know what's going on in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, you can go to the 2E community and really get the pulse of what's going on, whether it's about a book, gaming convention, someone's Infinite products, Kickstarters that are going on, questions people have, memes that are going around. You can go there and essentially know everything that's going on for that day. And frankly, I think that if a Reddit that you go to, a subreddit, is stale, if it's not constantly changing, then it means that people aren't interacting with whatever that subreddit was designed to interact with. Whether it's, the water drinking club, for example, or something like that, or model airplanes. You should be able to go on there every single day and see something new by the community, whether it's, a regular person, a content creator. And we're very lucky because we also get interaction from the Paizo staff. We've kind of become their official, unofficial soundboard for ideas, for getting feedback from the community before playtests. So we kind of serve as the one-stop hub for everything. And as long as we're maintaining that, we're making it so that it's someplace that people can constantly be engaged. That's when you're getting the actual Reddit experience. Is if you want to talk about Pathfinder 2nd Edition, you should be able to go there every single day and have something new to talk about or interact with. And I think that we provide that.
That's super cool. And you know what? You're right. The Paizo staff are so lovely. Getting to go to this PaizoCon and meet a lot of them, a lot of pretty big heads in the Paizo corporation too, because it's not like, it's not like WotC where there's just a lot of nameless execs who don't really interact with the space whatsoever. A lot of the top members of the Paizo staff are there participating, talking to you, and they're also just hyped about the game in general as well.
Yeah, I mean, I had people like Jason Bowman and Eric Mona responding to my comments before I was anything, before I was a mod, before I was, on Twitter or doing this podcast. I was just a normal poster putting stuff out there, and they would interact with me. And that really is a unique experience that I have not seen replicated anywhere else. Like, certainly WotC, they're big mega corporation, but I don't even see it with like smaller publishing companies. Paizo just is really good about interacting with their community, and to me, not only is the fact that Pathfinder 2nd Edition is a great game a big draw for me, but that fact that they are really invested in the people who are playing it, not just the money, but like, are people happy with it? Are we doing the right thing with how we handle controversy and stuff? That's a big boon to why I think people should play it and put their money into this corporation. That's, I don't get any commission from Paizo for talking about their product all day long on Twitter. I do it because I believe in what they do. I believe in how fun the game is, how fun the game can be for other people. And I love the direction that they're going in for everything. They're representing people who have never been represented before. They're making leaps way before other companies are, with like adding assistive items to as interactive player things. In their core rulebook, they talked about how you can be a blind or deaf player, way before WotC posted anything about a wheelchair accessible dungeon that got tons of backlash for some reason.
I remember that. I remember that inked over like to my little sphere.
Yeah, Paizo has truly been pushing a lot of boundaries, and they're going in the right direction. And honestly, if they were not, I would drop them like that. I got really close to it when there was the whole shenanigans right before they unionized, when all that stuff came out. I was like, is this something that I want to put my money into anymore and support? And like, has this whole podcast thing been a big waste of time? And then they unionized. They accepted the union within like 2 weeks of it being announced. And like, no one does that. And the fact that they did, and they didn't, put on a months-long anti-union campaign or something like that, or, like what Starbucks is doing to their union efforts,
right?
I think speaks of volumes about this little tiny company that's still pushing strong, still doing this really great product. So I'm really happy that they exist, that Pathfinder 2nd Edition exists, and I'm happy to represent it for as long as they keep going in that direction.
It is
I
like
agree.
such a nice breath of fresh air, because like my entire like life of nerddom has been these companies treating me like, like a walking just wallet.
Yeah.
Because like, as the resident Warhammer fanboy of this community we got, I am a little too used to just the company of the game I enjoy treating me like dirt. So it's very, very nice that like everything I've heard about like Paizo, like the community and the staff who work on it, has been like nothing but delightful. Every time I see
Yep.
them on Twitter or like hear stories of conventions, I'm like, oh, they sound fun. Like, I heard the whole bit of some of them might have been playing like some new classes or archetypes like during live play stuff. I'm like, that is such a fun way to do like mini
Mhm.
leagues. That's so fun.
Yeah. Ethical consumerism in a capitalist society is very, very hard. And Paizo makes it easy. So
Honestly,
that's nice.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm very glad you got to be here, and you heard earlier, you're first guest we've gotten to have on Battle of Gamer here. And I mean, to be fair, I don't want Battle of Gamer to be associated as the guest show podcast. You know, we like to have our own kind of chat and dialogue and a lot of the nonsense that we get up to all the time. I think that's really our brand. But one of the things that we want to do here as well is really reinforce the community and really push the tabletop community in general. Paizo just happens to be one of the easiest ones, like you mentioned earlier. And I got to meet a lot of them there. And I do hope to eventually branch out to, even D&D and other spheres like that. But I do feel like not a lot of time do the smaller creators get a chance to really talk out loud. I mean, to be fair, it's not like I'm a big creator or anything like that. I mean, we're not even an official YouTube partner, but I feel like even after we become an official partner, even after we hit, 10K, 20K, 50K, whatever, I feel like there are people in the community like yourself who really help move things along and keep things going, the grease on the wheels that, addresses things that big companies just can't by themselves, and passionate people in a community that sometimes can be very polarizing, in a community that can be sometimes very, well, like all communities, very tribal in some ways.
Fair.
And having you on as one of our first guests, I think, is really great because you're on the Twitter all the time, you're on the Reddit all the time, and we got to even meet the other guy. I'm really bad with names. You'll have to forgive me.
Oh, Rico?
Is that his name?
PaizoCon?
He's the Pathfinder 1E Reddit top Reddit guy.
1E top Reddit guy.
He was
he there?
Yeah, he went to your game.
Oh. I don't know. He didn't introduce himself as one of the mods for 1E. Technically, I should say the Pathfinder _RPG does not want itself to be known as the 1E subreddit.
That's fair. I understand.
There's reasons.
There's a bit of drama there, but yeah, I understand.
I disagree. But they do really want to be a good place for 2E people too. And to be fair, they are trying a lot harder now to change their subreddit so that it's more welcoming to 2E people asking questions and interacting in that space as well. Because they want to be the general Pathfinder hub. And I might disagree. I think that they should embrace what everyone kind of unofficially knows them to be, including their own community. But, the fact that they are authentically working towards, making themselves into a 2E space as well is commendable. So I'm totally fine with that. Yeah, he didn't introduce himself as the mod for RPG, so I'm sad about that. I would have loved to talk to him more about 2E moddy stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, I don't think he's even been doing it that long. Where is the official? I don't remember. I remember he said that he was one of the top mods for the Pathfinder stuff, and I believe that was the one that he was talking about. We all four. There's four of us there, and we were talking. That's when we were talking, and he was the one.
There is Rico the Bold is his username is one of the TUI mods. I know he does
2E mod.
Yeah, he's a TUI mod. I know that he does other stuff. He works with Foundry on a voluntary basis, doing a lot of. I think he makes the icons better.
Yeah.
So if that's the guy you're talking about, yeah, I know him.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was talking about.
If one of the RPG mods was there, I wasn't introduced to them as one of the RPG mods. I would have loved to, because I would have loved to meet some of them and maybe try to get us out from this kind of tense but not tense relationship, because we don't want it. We don't want that. We have reached out a lot to try to make nice. There was some bad blood early on when the 2E subreddit got started that just kind of persisted and festered, and all of those people who would have done those things have actually stopped being mods for reasons. We didn't kick them out. They just like, well, I did my part, so I'm good. So it's a whole new brand of people, and I would like to have a good relationship with every subreddit, and I think that we do for the most part, and we're getting better with the RPG one, because they are doing good work. They handle things differently than we do, but they're a space for the 1E players who maybe now don't feel like they're being represented anymore. Paizo's not making 1E stuff anymore. It's technically a dying game, even though they're still printing 1E materials in the form of the pocket editions. It's good for them to have a space, and the fact that the RPG people are there to provide that space is just as great as the fact that we're providing a space for the 2E community more specifically.
Yeah, and I think it is inevitable that some people are going to feel that way. It sucks when your favorite game, is no longer being produced for another game's sake.
Sure. And when 2E dies or becomes Pathfinder 3E, it'll be a sad day for me as well, as long as 3E actually made improvements, which I am not 100% sure what those would actually look like, because I think 2E's pretty solid, but I'm sure 1E people thought that 1E was pretty solid, and then 2E came out and they had all these new things, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, like Fortnite and Paragon. Paragon was such a good game, but unfortunately, big corporation. Well, as the chat mentioned it, yeah. And by the way, speaking on the chat, don't feel afraid. Ask our guests any questions you may have, and we will get to it as we come to. Normally, it takes about 30 minutes to an hour for most of the people to actually hop into the chat. So we'll see who showed up. We're also an hour later than normal, so
okay. Yeah, ask me questions, y'all. I want to talk to you impersonally, but
pseudo personally,
pseudo personally. But if you have questions, I'm happy to answer. And then I'm gonna make a plug. If you want to follow me on Twitter, go to Rulelord2E, or subscribe to my podcast at Rulelord2E.com for more ways to interact with the podcast. And there's my pitch.
There you go. And Alex is putting your links in the various chats right now.
Awesome.
I hear a link, I post it.
Yeah. It's his job to kind of be on top of linking stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
In the chat.
But link the 2E subreddit too, because if any of your listeners are liking Pathfinder 2nd Edition and are not part of that community, you are missing out.
I agree, and especially because, man, 2e is such a good game, such a great game. I have been playing tabletop for like 20 years, over 20 years now, and I've played a lot of different tabletops, and I'm the forever GM, but I'm okay with that. I love running the narrative. I like twisting the game to fit my own kind of, like style and whatever. And I've never wanted to play in a game as much as Pathfinder 2e. I'm very lucky that my fiance runs a game for me, because I think I would literally explode if I couldn't play any Pathfinder 2e.
It would be tough. Yeah, I've been game mastering for it since it came out, and I have hardly ever actually played it as a player, which is fine by me because I love GMing. I am the forever GM who loves to be the GM rather than a player. Not that it wouldn't be fun to do it every like once in a while, but more as like a one shot than a player in a campaign. Unless the right people were running it. There are some people who I would love to be a player to their GMing. But I love being a game master for it. It's very easy. It's very intuitive.
Yeah.
I think that 2e came around at the perfect time in that I think that 2e is a great game to be incorporated with the age of information that we're currently in. I know that when 4e was coming out, it tried to kind of do the same thing, be like, have like a website integration and stuff. But the fact that Pathfinder 2e came around, it's still really, really crunchy, but you have these awesome resources like Archives of Nethys that you can go to for free. Demiplane, which is not free, but it is a wonderful way to read the books. My personal favorite. All the PDFs and all the tools that normal people have made too. The community has come together to make these great fillable character sheets, tools to look stuff up when Archives of Nethys was still kind of getting off the ground. People have come up with template tools so that you can make your own monsters in the Pathfinder 2e format. Like, the integration, I don't know that Pathfinder 2e would be so successful if it wasn't able to so easily integrate with the internet and everyone being able to contribute to it. If Paizo kept this like iron glove hold over it and made sure that no one else could interact with it unless it was part of their official IP, I think Pathfinder probably would have died within its first year. But the fact that everyone can come into this game and add stuff to it, whether it's through Pathfinder Infinite or making a tool, is just like fantastic. I really kind of wonder what earlier editions of some games might have looked like if they had the same sort of support that they could work off of. But 2e has it, and it's amazing to see what people have come up with.
It really is. We do got a question from one of the members. Fonzie Zombie asks, what is of your characters that you've played, what is the most favorite one you've played?
My favorite character is one called Dornhoth. He was a dwarven fighter. It was a 1e campaign for Hell's Rebels, and his personality was basically intrinsically linked with his warhammer, which is why I am very desperate to see Paizo reintroduce the dwarven warhammer into the official weapon sphere And why I'm very passionate about ancestral weapons, more ancestral weapons being added, which I'm happy to see with the treasury. But yeah, I started off early with this kukri wielding crow, what was it, Inquisitor with it. And I was like, I'm gonna be the tactician and stuff, and I don't know, I just wasn't having fun with that. So I asked my GM Liz if I could make a new character. Like we were like at level 3 or something. She's like, sure. And I just wanted to do something more simple, and it was also pretty clear that our party was very tank light. It's like a spellcaster, a cleric, and an alchemist. So like no big heavy hitter. So I just wanted to be someone who could take a lot of damage and deal a lot of damage. So I made this character Dornhoth, who I set out to be the most dwarfy dwarf possible. Selected every ancestral thing that I could to make him better with his hammer. Anytime that I could make his hammer more effective, I made his hammer more effective. Like everything was directed at making him really, really good at smashing things with a warhammer. And so there was actually a point in the campaign where we spoilers for Hell's Rebels, there's a part where you go into a prison and you're trying to rescue some people. But there was a demon in there called a chitin. That's what it was. Real scary, with like knives coming out of it all over. And at that point, I had been pretty invincible as a character. Anything that I went across, I could almost one-shot hit them and splatter them to bits. But we came across this person, and I could not kill her. In fact, she killed me, but then resurrected me so that I could continue to be tortured. I had to play a temporary character during this time, and then we ran a second assault on the prison where they rescued Dornhoth's body, but they didn't recover his hammer. So months of the campaign, my character arc was, I am going to rescue my hammer. And I was using like dwarven blades or something like that. I was like, I hate doing this. And made it like a whole character arc of becoming learning under the Hell Knights how I could be a better fighter, and training under Victocorus about how to be like more disciplined and stuff. So I went from being this kind of goofy person to someone who was like actually thinking and like being really tactical, but still kind of like the funny dwarf character. And eventually I got the hammer back. We ran in there and like we were way over leveled, and I was like, I finally found it. But actually at that time I was wielding a better warhammer because I rebought one that had like silver finish and stuff like that. I was like, I have my hammer back, and I never had to use it, but it was like a big moment of catharsis. I had my hammer back. And so it was one of my favorite characters. Basing it off of his relationship with his weapon was really, really fun. Even though he's just a fighter, the low role play fighter, but it was really, really fun.
That's fair. That sounds like a really fun one. It's super funny too, because I actually recently played a dwarven inventor called Runeg Skagarix was his name, and he had the Skag Axe, which was a big, dwarven war axe, and he modded it all to heck with the inventor feats, and it was fun. He had it turn into an axe musket, so you could fire
Ooh.
it and use the combi slash and all the things like that.
Very
So I had
cool.
it's funny, we had a very similar character idea, and I played a very dwarfy dwarf because it was like a mini arc. We were playing high level characters, so I had recently been playing a very serious investigator character who was not really jiving with the party. He's just mentally was a very serious character, and the other players' characters were, well, we have a taxman automaton from Chiliax, who's a barbarian who enforces taxes. So it was very hard to play a very serious character, and I needed something to just kind of let loose, and a character that was a little bit easier. And Skag was definitely my favorite so far because I could just do all kinds of really wonky things. Inventor's so good. Inventor's
very good.
Very, very good.
I have a player right now who has a bunny who explodes health. Like,
nice. Yeah, I know exactly how they've done that. That's awesome.
It's amazing, and like you can do that kind of stuff in this game. It's amazing. And part of the joy of being a GM in those cases is like when they pull those things out for me that I wasn't expecting. Because I try not to metagame too much and like look on their character sheets or like audit them or something like that. Because I have a lot of confidence in the game's balance. So when they come out and they're like, yeah, I have this ability that lets me use this flick mace to make attacks of opportunity within reach, and I can get extra attacks of opportunity because I have this feat. And like there's one player who absolutely massacred a bunch of enemies because he was just able to keep knocking people down and then making a surprise attack on them because none of them could stand up. It was, yeah, so great
Sounds
game.
so good. Yeah. Alex, you've been uncharacteristically quiet all day today.
That is true. It doesn't help I've also had to wrangle house stuff every once in a while.
Oh, that's true.
I've been listening in the whole time on Twitch at least, so I've heard everything.
Okay.
Well, do you got any questions for our wonderful guest here?
I am curious about because you described that there was there was, at least it might have been like a lot worse before, like some bad blood on the Reddit side of things, like between the Reddits. I'm curious, like what exactly is going on between that, if you're at liberty to like describe anything, because the most I've heard was that just people on the Reddit on like the big one aren't behaving that well. Some tribalism between 1E and 2E stuff. Like,
yeah,
if you're able to describe it, I'm very curious what's been going on.
Well, that's the persistent problem, is that there's a lot of content creators, more specifically, who feel like when they post about 2E stuff on the RPG subreddit that they get downvoted instantly, like brigaded. And don't feel like the mods are doing enough to help that out. Which there's nothing the mods can really do about, downvotes. That's just something that happens by nature of who is involved in the community, and if people are feeling that you're posting off-topic things in their subreddit, they're going to downvote it. Doesn't matter what you're posting in. So that's been a problem, and part of why I'm kind of in camp. They should embrace being the 1E subreddit, because then people will stop posting 2E stuff, and all the 1E people will be happy. But they do have 2E people in there who do interact and engage in the community with 2E material, so I understand why they don't want to give that part up. As far as like the early beef, I don't want to rehash old blood, especially stuff that we have been trying a lot to sweep under the rug. I will say that there's some animosity that we started our subreddit at all. And some of the mods on RPG thought that we were trying to steal members because we existed, and sometimes like would cross promote. And you know, a new subreddit emerging when there's a new topic is just a natural part of how the internet works.
That's just,
We've actually grabbed all the URLs for the 3E Pathfinder, so we own Pathfinder 3E stuff, so that when that comes out, we can get, you know, a leg on it. But, you know, so like there's a feeling like, you know, this is our chocolate and our peanut butter, and you're taking our chocolate and you know, and then there just wasn't communication after that, which I think is more of the big problem, which is that when people have when people misinterpret actions and then they don't talk about it to each other, it just festers and it gets worse and worse, and you know, people make hypotheses about why people are doing stuff and it's not the real reason. And so if there had been like earlier communication, it might have been just fine. There just wasn't. And there wasn't really until our third crop of mods, of which I'm part of that section, actually started to do like some outreach and try to communicate with them. And some feelings are not entirely gone, but they're a lot better. We actually have one of the 1E mods on our 2E mod team, user Edawir, and he's been great because he helps kind of bridge the gap. He's a 2E person. He plays 2E. He makes guides for 2E. He converts 1E to 2E stuff. But then he's also a big fan of 1E, and so he's still a mod on RPG. So like, we're building bridges, and that's the important thing.
Oh yeah.
As far as how they're continuing to handle how content is treated on their page, I don't know that it's necessarily the way that I would be running it, but it's their choice. They want to keep it more discussion based than like how we have done, which is embracing videos and memes and pictures and art. So, you know, it's just a difference in philosophy, and the people who are in the RPG subreddit like it the way that it is. The people in the 2E subreddit like it the way that we're doing things. And sometimes when people try to go in to each other's spaces, especially when you're like a content creator, like posting a video in what people think should be an entirely discussion-based forum, that gets a bad reaction, and it's unfortunate. There's nothing I can do about it because I'm not one of their mods. They just have to make a choice whether they're going to be more accepting of that stuff, or if they want to make like a hard call. Right now they're kind of treating it like, as long as you interact with our community, you can post this stuff. But then people don't post stuff, so the rare occasions where someone does, it seems like a break from the norm, and some people don't like that. So. Yeah,
it's always a super hard situation too, because like moderating anything, like any subreddit, is always such like a delicate balance, because like a mod team can make like one decision, like a hard rule, and that could just kill your subreddit.
Yes.
Like, absolutely kill it. And then that's when you get those situations where there's like 20 splinter subs all trying to fix the problems of the previous sub, like all of that stuff.
And we've had those difficult conversations when there was a weekend, I should say, where everyone was posting artwork. You know, their character art that they commissioned, or the stuff that they drew, whatever, or you know, their Hero Forge pictures. And we had to have a big discussion, like, okay, pictures are going to quickly flood the subreddit. Are we okay with that? And we had a lot of back and forth about that, like, way more than than you might think is maybe necessary, but like it's a big change of because once you get pictures added on, it is going to overtake any discussion because pictures just show up better on like apps. It's something people can look at in preview and then upvote and then totally bypass a discussion. So we had to figure out, are we okay with that? Our middle ground was that we implemented a rule where if you posted a picture, you needed to have instant follow-up talking about the ancestry, background, and class of your character in a 2e format. So this can't just be your 5e character that you feel like spreading your art about. You have to make it relevant to Pathfinder 2nd Edition by talking about how this is a Pathfinder character, not just a character or a cool concept. And that really helped. Most of the time, people follow up instantly. We get a lot less pictures, but they're all 2e relevant. They're pictures of the deities. They're pictures of Pathfinder 2e kobolds, Kenrasu, Galoma, things like that. One of the most popular pictures, which is one of my favorite, is a kobold holding up a hammer and a sickle, and it's like communist kobold.
Yes.
So,
They've been using that for some of the Union stuff as well.
yeah.
I immediately found it on the subreddit.
Yeah.
I just went to top posts immediately.
Yep, it's one of the most highly upvoted posts ever in our subreddit. So, yeah, there is give and take, and the more that you start to prioritize one thing, it's going to deprioritize something else. And part of how we think we've helped manage it is that we keep that weekly discussion thread going, so that people can post questions, and it'll be filtered at the top so that they can get instant answers. Whereas if we got rid of that and maybe had two different things, people would post questions in the forum as a discussion, but then it'd get shot down because of pictures or videos or something, and no one would be able to talk about their questions. So, we try to make sure that there's a balance.
It's a good way of handling it too, like that specific way. It helps prevent any bad actors of like going in karma farming, or even like putting in like probably pictures that aren't that don't align with the subreddit's rules and all that. And also, yeah, like it's pointed out in the chat, like I think the best example, that's the 5e subreddit, where like I can go on the front page and like 9 out of 10 are character art. And I love seeing that, but like sometimes if it's like, oh, I have a question, and the place I always go for if I'm like curious about something is Reddit, because they'll like answer you immediately. And it's hard when you want some like conversation about something, and then you're not getting any exposure because all the people are looking at the art.
Yeah.
So it's a good call that was definitely made.
Yeah. And for them, it probably works out because pictures get engagement. Engagement means more people see your stuff. I mean, it's not a bad way to go to have a totally image based, or to be okay with images taking up the majority of your subreddit. We're not about engagement or SEO. We're about the community and making sure it's a good space for the community of all kinds. So that's the balance that we try to strike.
Yeah, and as content creation, like, and I would say like even modding a Reddit is some form of content creation. If you're hosting a space and maintaining rules on it, it's something that definitely can help alter a community and how it progresses. So I say they kind of exist in similar spheres. It's hard to maintain. It's about what you want, And a lot of it is, a lot of people want to be successful, but they want to be successful at what they want to do. And some people choose success over their initial virtues, and some people pick their virtues over any chance of success. And it has to be a balance, because you have to play. It's I made a post on Twitter recently that I am really bad at just talking on Twitter and just having things to talk about. It's mostly just advertising, and it can't just be advertising. It has to be some kind of space where people come in and talk, and then you can advertise so that your stuff gets seen and so that you're successful to keep the ball rolling and keep doing more and more fun things. And I'm evolving in that space. I'm really bad right now, but that's okay. You can't be perfect, and I've only been doing Reddit really for like 6 months or something like that. So it's something, or not Reddit, but Twitter, for like 6 months or so. And it's very fascinating to hear like the compromise you came up with, which was one that felt very structured. It was something that, because you added just a little bit more effort to posting pictures, it reduced overall picture flow but did not delete it. And so it came to a balance. And I feel like that's definitely something to look for as tabletop in general, because tabletop has been going through some major growing pains in the last decade. It, like, in all decades before the last decade, it has belonged to the
Grognards.
I was trying not to say it, but yes, exactly. It's belonged to the Grognards. It's belonged to the people who loved the initial style of D&D, and it was their game and everything like that. And I've been playing tabletop for a while, and obviously it wasn't all D&D. I played a lot of GURP system stuff. I've played a lot of some of the White Wolf games and their iterations as they gotten into like World of Darkness and all that kind of stuff. And the tabletop sphere has been growing, but it was very strongly like focused on the pillar that is D&D. And I feel like as time is going on, when Pathfinder kicked around especially, there was at least something else other than D&D that people were talking about, and it wasn't as much. And I was talking to Mark Seifter, who's an amazing guy. He worked a lot on Pathfinder 2e stuff, and he was kind of one of the old hats.
I was amazed that you two were able to stand in the exact same place at PaizoCon for like 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah, it was a long time. We talked for a long time. It's just because like he's such a knowledgeable, he's very passionate about the design aspects of the game, and I'm just very passionate about it as well. So we really hit it off. And
I don't think verbal communication is a good enough method for Mark to get all of the knowledge and ideas that he has out of his head. He almost needs some kind of like pipe and direct uplink to the web for all of his like knowledge and ideas to truly be really encapsulated. He is a beast. I love Mark.
He's really cool.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No, go. It's what we're here for. We're here to chat. We're here to talk. But that's what I believe the space is really struggling with right now, is the last decade, since a little bit before Critical Role started to now, we're having this renaissance and this discovery period where more people are getting into tabletop. And now that people have been playing D&D for now, 7 years, 8 years, something along those lines, people are starting to get curious about other spaces. Pathfinder has been getting a pretty big influx in the last year of players. A lot of people who have been kind of migrating from D&D, and I feel like the space in general kind of needs that. That's why one of the things we do on the channel is once a month we look at a different game system. We do a one shot.
I think everyone should.
Yeah, and then at the end of the one shot, I interview the players, and I'm like, how'd you like this game? What were some of your opinions on it? We have a very organic, here's our first take at the system kind of stuff. very rarely do we have anyone who's super knowledgeable in the game. Sometimes we do, though, and that adds some great insight as well. And it's been fun voting on the channel every month to see what game gets to come out. We've had some games that have been sitting very close to the top that just haven't break the.
Yeah, we have.
I want them to. Okay, I want
Warhammer to win, but no one will vote for it.
It's been like second or third place like every month though.
I mean, I'll share a secret with you guys.
Sure.
Pathfinder 2nd Edition isn't even my favorite tabletop roleplay game.
Same, actually.
Gasp! It's mine, but what's yours?
Yeah, what is yours?
It's Monster of the Week.
Oh, that's a fun system.
I've heard that one.
That's a fun one.
It is amazing. It is a beautifully made system and criminally underplayed, underrated. And it also involves my favorite genre, which is like the paranormal, supernatural, X-Files, Fringe, Hellboy, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Supernatural, the show, all of that kind of stuff is integrated in it, and it does it without having a bestiary. Most of the rules can be boiled down to like 2 pages, and the characters are just like simple single page or double-sided pages where you just fill in dots, but it works so well, especially as a true role play game, which, you know, Pathfinder kind of, it's a role play game, definitely, but it's also most of the rules are regarding combat. Like, it's a combat simulator where the feats and the action economy is about how you hit stuff and how you hit it better. But Monster of the Week is much more designed as a storytelling game, and it's wonderful. I just can't make a show about it because it's so easy to learn. I could maybe make like 1 episode to teach people how to do it, and I really want to for Halloween. But it's like I can't talk fondly enough about it. I just can't get people to play with me, which is, you know, the problem that a lot of smaller people who like smaller game systems have, which is like, this can be an awesome game system, but it's not going to go anywhere unless you can get players to play or someone to GM for you. But like, if I could get a full-time Monster of the Week group going, I would absolutely do it, and it'd probably be my favorite game of the week.
It's such a cool system. I really love systems like that give like some of the DM responsibilities to the players, where it's very free form describing what happens. It really feels like a communal storytelling effort rather than like one person telling a story. Like, yeah, Monster of the Week is one of those systems that I've never played it. I've looked on fondly once I heard it was a thing, looked into it. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. I wish.
Yeah. I have the books for the One Ring back there. I supported the Kickstarter for Urban Shadows. All these awesome games. Just gotta get someone to play it with you.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point of like my podcast, is trying to get people to want to play Pathfinder 2nd Edition by learning it and seeing that it's really not as big and scary as people think that it is. And the fact that you guys are doing that for other TTRPGs, I think is great, because like, as much as I love both Pathfinder 2nd Edition and Monster of the Week, I don't think any game should be a monolith. I see D&D try to be the everything game, like in space, grimdark, modern, past, not fantasy, high fantasy, low fantasy, and there's other games that do those things better. And I think that people should try to play those things. I love Pathfinder. I want you to play it, but I also want you to try other things. Vampire the Masquerade, Call of Cthulhu. Try other shit. It's great. There's lots of fun games out there. Play them.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like I love the series because like selfishly the whole thing is like what Cameron described earlier of like the Renaissance. Like I find it really funny, Cam, that it described my exposure to tabletop like exactly, like literally 7 years because of Critical Role. Like because I had like next to no exposure when I was like really young until like Critical Role came out and I started playing, and it's like, well, I've only played 5e. Then I got pulled into Pathfinder and Anima Beyond Fantasy. Best system, by the way. Absolute best tabletop system ever made. And overall, it's been really fun to just play like Lancer, like VTM. I'm trying to remember. Does like it feels like every system we've played has just been a good time. A Shadowrun.
They've all been really good. Shadowrun. I think Shadowrun was the roughest one.
I think so. I think it's just it's hard to pass to top. I feel like Lancer and VTM because VTM is super fun. It also helps that we're a very roleplay heavy like kind of group for our core group. So like playing a game where it's like, oh, talking is the main gameplay. Sign me up. Like,
and there's ones out there who they're totally based around talking. There's one that's like about it. It's supposed to have like a Studio Ghibli vibe of just
yeah. I heard that one.
I don't know what it's called. I wish that I knew what it was called, but just like a role-playing game about having a good time. No conflict, no blood, no it's just people going around and basically playing the equivalent of Stardew Valley or whatever, but in tabletop role-play game format. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's great. I love that you're having fun doing that. The renaissance, the next renaissance of tabletop roleplay game, I think, is gonna be that breaking out into new systems. Because the one thing that I have seen with second edition is that most of the people who are playing it now are not 1E converts.
Yeah, surprisingly.
No.
And they're not brand spanking new people, though I wish that they were. They're largely 5e players, people who had issues with 5e for whatever reason, and there's a lot of reasons, and then play Pathfinder 2nd Edition and are like, this fixes everything!
Honestly.
And,
it does, yeah.
And so then they start playing it, and they become really big advocates for it, annoyingly so to some people, because it works. It's like they finally found a game that functions in the way that they want it to, that does what they need it to do, without them having to do like a bajillion homebrew rules to make it fit. And that is what's going to be the next breakout, I think, is that as D&D and WotC become, bigger, and frankly keep missing the mark in a lot of different ways, that people are going to go out and start to discover more TTRPGs, whether they're Pathfinder or not. There's a game that I just saw the other day on Twitter, never heard of it before, called Vaesen, and it sounds awesome. It's all about like Nordic mythology, and like that sounds great. And what I think is going to happen more and more is that people are going to start talking about new games, and as much as I think it's great that everyone's trying to start their own like live play and stuff, I think if you want to be the next Critical Role, it's not about latching on to these systems that are already very popular, even Pathfinder to a certain extent. It's going to be bringing something new to the table, playing Legends of the Five Rings, playing that Studio Ghibli thing, and like having that be your shtick, being the new kid on the block, is going to be what really breaks people into success as they're able to showcase this new system, how it works, and see if people vibe with it. I got into Monster of the Week because I listened to the Adventure Zone, which previously was, doing D&D. And then they tried Monster of the Week out, and I listened to all the mechanics on it, and I was like, that sounds really cool. That sounds really intuitive and easy. And then I bought the books, and I started reading them, and I loved it. And so that's where people are going to find a lot of success. I'm trying to do it by breaking into the teaching people how to play Pathfinder 2nd edition. That's going to be my shtick, and as soon as I have nothing left to teach people, my podcast is over, or I have to start talking about something else. But if more people are able to start talking about different games, different systems, I think that there's going to be a new renaissance where it's not just the big dragon game that's really popular. It's all these different games. It's people who didn't think that tabletop roleplay games were their thing because it was medieval fantasy are going to discover there's all kinds of different ways to interact with TTRPGs. There's all kinds of different systems, settings, and that's going to be the next big explosion, I think.
Yeah.
I really hope that's the case, because like one thing that I think the biggest pet peeve when it comes to like online space for tabletop stuff is people being like, feel like you have to be married to a system. Like, you can be playing like a bunch of different systems, enjoy a bunch of different systems at the same time. Just because, say, for example, you really love VTM doesn't mean you hate 5e or 2nd edition Pathfinder, like whatever. You can hold all of those in equal standing. Like, you can have multiple, and you can just play stuff and just be like, wasn't for me, I'll play something else. Doesn't have to be like, this is now my life, everyone must convert to this tabletop game.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, so what I was going to say is that's kind of, it's funny that you say, I agree. I believe the next era is the evolution of tabletop in general. I feel one of the things that we want to do here on Bad Luck Gamer, especially what I've been very passionately driving, is I believe that as far as tabletop we know it right now is concerned, it has so much room for evolution and growth. There's so much just untapped potential when it comes to the role-playing space. The fact that we've been playing games in a very similar fashion to D&D, rolling dice and everything like that, has been just what we've known. But tabletop can be expressed and done in so many ways. Yeah. And what's that one Django one? Candles in the Dark, I think is what it's called.
Ooh, that sounds
the one, the like horror one with the 7 candles. I think it's 7 candles. That's it.
7 candles. Yeah. That one. That's a different evolution of tabletop as well. And what we want to do here is we want to be like the heart of the community. We want to be the hub where if there's a new game coming out, you can come in and get a taste of it. And then the people who are doing their thing, who are specializing in that content, might get some more viewership just because someone found it out through the central hub. And of course, right now we're using Pathfinder 2E as our main mode of growth because it's popular and I enjoy the system so much.
Yep.
But we're taking the time to look at tabletop in a lot of different ways. We've been playing a new tabletop every month. Once a month is about as much as I can take because I have to learn and run it every month. So it's a bit of a struggle sometimes, especially Shadowrun. Oh, God, especially Shadowrun.
That's the drawback, is needing to learn something completely. And that's part of where that like sunk cost fallacy comes from, of like, you bought this book, now you have to play it, now you have to keep playing it. Maybe you hate it, maybe you're miserable, but you put all this money into this stuff. Which is why I love that Pathfinder with Paizo made all of their rules free on Archives of Nethys, and D&D does it to a small percent. They have like a kind of free resource that you can download, but I don't know how many other systems are totally free to access in some way. And I think that can only help those systems if they start to embrace that. Like, obviously, Pathfinder is still doing well financially, even though some YouTubers say that it's not because they're branching into 5e. But when people invest in your game, they mostly just want to try it first, and there's not good ways to really do that until you buy the book. And some people just don't want to buy the book because then they have to play it, and if they don't like it, what are they going to do with this useless book? So, the more people are able to find out the rules for free, either watching it through a Let's Play or accessing Archives of Nethys adjacent thing for, Fate Core. Fate Core has its rules for free. So if you wanted to go play that, find out how to play it, you can do that. I don't know how it is for some other games though. So I think that's a big thing. Is I think a lot of people are trying to model themselves after WotC because WotC is big and super successful. Whereas I would encourage any big publishers who are watching this stream to model yourselves more after Paizo. Let people try your games somehow for free, or at the very least super duper cheap. And that's going to drive people to want to play it more, not less, just because they have free access to the rules. I have free access to the rules. I have all the fancy, super expensive special editions because I love the game so much, and I love how the books look in having them be able to be tactile, but I also have the PDFs and the demi-plane. I've spent an exorbitant amount of money on Paizo, which is bad financial decisions, but it's because I love the game, because I was able to try the game out, and because I learned that I loved it. So I really hope that more gaming design people are gonna do that. Not put their stuff behind a paywall, not make it so that their books are shrink wrapped and can't be accessed when people go to their friendly local game stores. Let people find out about your game. Let people interact with your game. Make these free resources like how Pathfinder 2nd Edition does, where people are making tools, adding content, adding adventures. When you have this iron grip hold over your product, it's a real good way to gatekeep yourself, I think. And the fact that Paizo was more broad, was more willing to release some of that pressure. Oh, you got a puppy. Oh, no, that's a kitty.
It's a kitty.
Excuse me. I think it's only helped it. It might not have been the best financial decision based off of some economic factors, but the fact is that it worked. People are able to try before they buy, and when they try it, they're gonna buy it. So
it was definitely the biggest entrance for me, because God, the barrier of entry of some RPGs is so hard, where it's I want to try out this game, $60 price tag right up the start for a core book. But instead I just got a message from Cam once, just saying, hey, I'm running Pathfinder 2e stuff, you want to tag along, I know you're in town. I found online resources. I found an app for Android called Path Builder that I really enjoy. It's amazing. I use it just for fun, just creating characters. Which is something I don't really
has
do.
Absolutely no stake in it at
Exactly.
all. It's a totally off. It's a person who does it all on their own dime and free time, and it's exponentially helped out the game. So yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm really bad when it comes to building a character from the book. I suck at it, and I'm too scatterbrained. But when it comes to a tool, an online tool that's you're this class, here's all your options. You have this, here's all your feats. It's so nice because all I've heard growing up with tabletops, oh, Pathfinder's the spreadsheet tabletop game. you're gonna have like a 20-page long character sheet, flow charts for actions, and I'm like, that sounds like a lot, and I don't want anything to do with it. Then actually trying it, I'm like, oh, this isn't that bad.
Yeah.
And actually kind of cool. Like right now, I'm working on a character. I'm making a Magus pirate character for a game I'm finally able to join. And running through all the Magus stuff has been super fun. Running through all the archetypes has been amazing. Even finding like the character's going to be an Undyne, the water elemental. I'm really excited to use my Brine Soul reaction of Salt Wound. I think that's a very fun like aesthetic.
Yeah.
It's so much fun to just create a character in that system because of the tools like the game or just that the community gives out. And anytime a game has that, it feels like it skyrockets in like my opinion of it. Like because the other one's like Lancer. Lancer is also like phenomenal system, really well made, and you can get the core book for free. And they have an online tool, CompCon, for a giant character sheet, and you can send links to your character sheet to your DM, so we can run everything like through a page.
Ooh,
like it's all in universe too. It's like it fits the game's aesthetic and lore. Like while you're making a character, I love it. Awesome. I really wish more like tabletop publishers really like pushed for really good online tools. So I think it does nothing but make your game more accessible and like more enjoyed when that's a thing you can do.
Yep.
I agree.
And to be fair to you, Pathfinder First Edition kind of was a very spreadsheet one.
I was about to say, it's that's why I love about 2E. They made feats so not only do you get more feats in second edition, but they somehow made that way more accessible too, which is crazy. It's revolutionary, and that's why 2E is so great. But and that's kind of like that was also one of the motivators for our once a month game is, when you play table or when you buy video games, there's a lot of channels out there dedicated purely to playing a game first to see if you'll like it, and it gives people a chance to look at games and to get someone's opinion on them before they try them out. I know, especially in the indie game scene, it's really hard because there's not a lot of big power backing those games. It can be hard to buy those games sometimes. I bought in a lot of games watching Splattercat Gaming do indie games because I watch and I get serious gamer envy really bad. Like I see someone playing a game and I'm like, I want to play that game now. And I've gotten some really, like Vampire Survivors was a really good one that I would never have really thought of if I hadn't seen someone else play it. And when it comes to what we're doing about that gamer, that's what we buy the book and then run it for people, and then we try it out, and then afterwards we get people's first impressions on the game. And so while it's not like a full-blown, we played this game for 2 months, this is what it is kind of thing, it's this was our first experience of the game, and hopefully that's helpful to some people when it comes to getting into a game. And not only that, but I do a video on setting the game up, what you need to know about setting it up from a player perspective and from a GM perspective. And then I do my final thoughts video where I kind of use a lot of my experience and a lot of my vocational skill to kind of lay out as easy as I can for people with what limited experience that I have in the game. And I get people who comment all the time. They're like, thank you so much for looking into this game for me. I've been wanting to do so for a while now, but I just wasn't sure. And watching you all play really made me want to get into the game. And that's exactly what we want. And that's, like, I'm so glad you come on and talked about it, because a lot of it, well, to be fair, it's just, I feel like when you do a lot of content creation for a particular tabletop system, you live in your own kind of bubble. I've talked with some other content creators as well, and it's wild how different people can think on such things. And it's wild to think of what people think about how the community is sometimes, because they only view it from like their one source and they don't get to view it from like other sources. And running our table talk and getting to talk to people who are interested in all kinds of games, the fact that whenever we do a one shot, I always recruit from our Discord first, so that anyone who's in our community can come along as long as they agree to the guidelines for participating. We get all kinds of people. We get all kinds of viewpoints. We've had at least one individual I've never played with before in every one of our one-shots. And this next one coming up, we have 3 people. It's just Alex and myself and 3 people we've never played with before. So that's a big step in the right direction. And I feel like that's healthy for the community. And that's why, you know, like getting your, like, I know nothing about Reddit. Knowing what you kind of go through and what you bring and the decisions you have to make is important. That's the lifeblood of tabletop. It's all the small moving parts. It's every cog plays a role in keeping the machine going. And you're right. It's the online presence of tabletop and how accessible it is and how to get people to play and all that kind of stuff. And the more we can make tabletop look like the funnest thing you can spend your time on here at the channel, the more games people will have to play and the more people who will want to run games, especially because I myself, when it comes to Pathfinder 2E, love running the game, but also love participating in the game almost in equal measures, which is the first time ever for me personally. It's something along the lines of, this is where I feel like the evolution, the next era is coming, is these discussions. That's why I want to get more creators, especially creators in spaces I'm not familiar with, to come onto the show and talk. And I also, no matter how big we're going to get, I want to keep going and picking up people from the bottom and getting their experience and getting people who don't have a lot of representation, because Paizo has made representation not only just a part of, you know, Pathfinder. It's cool that a lot of the stuff they put in, like the accessibility items and all that kind of stuff, it's not only the accessibility items are there to help people feel inclusive, they're genuinely cool. The fact that you can get an animal companion that is a sentient chair, essentially, is really cool. And how it works in Pathfinder, that chair is going to rip people to shreds. Like, the animal companions in Pathfinder 2 are so good that just the fact that you have a sentient chair that can help with accessibility and dominate the battlefield with sounds like such a crazy character idea that even myself, who's not anyone who has any mobility issues, would play a character like that. And I think that's representation that is well deserved and long overdue when it comes to tabletop.
Very overdue.
Space.
Super overdue.
I'm really glad that that's been starting to be embraced more. And again, really glad that Paizo is really taking the charge on a lot of stuff, like WotC's Radiant Citadel, made all by people of color. That's awesome. That's great. Way overdue. That should have been 5 years ago. And it hasn't been until very, very recently. And I think part of that has been to something that you talked about too, was a loss in connection with the community, which is something that I personally try to keep at the forefront of my own interactions with people. I think it's really easy for some content creators to get themselves on a pedestal of celebrity, and frankly just stop interacting with the people that built them up. And I never want to be that person. And if I ever do become that person, stop following me, stop listening to my podcast. I would rather sit at a table with 6 people who I have never met and play a game of Pathfinder than schmooze around with top minds or, you know, big names at like PaizoCon. I spent most of my time at PaizoCon trying to game master. I missed 2 games because no one showed up, and then I got to run 3 other games. The one that I talked about a little bit, where I was just like, I haven't jammed enough. I want to do one more. So the more you continue to interact with the little people, as some people might think, the better off the whole community is going to be going. And that's something that I hope that I never lose, no matter which direction the podcast goes. I want to still interact with the podcast. I want to still post on Reddit just like a normal person. I want to go on Discord like a normal person and talk to people. I want to go on Twitter. And if someone has a question for me, I want to answer them. I'm as soon as I get into my new place and get all settled, and I'm not having to worry about painting and moving stuff, I really do want to run more games for strangers, whether that is doing more Pathfinder Society or something that I just put on in the wake of some recent Twitter controversy. Is I would love to have more people play the beginner box. I would love to run the beginner box for people. And I really hope that I never lose that side of just talking to other content creators or only talking to people who I think could advance like my career. I always want to keep in touch with the community, the people who are actually playing the game, have questions about the game, where I can help in whatever way that I can. And there might be a time when my Twitter notifications are too much that I'm not able to see every comment and stuff that I get. But I'm not at that point. I see every single comment. I want to respond to everything, whether it's just doing a like, whether it's actually responding with a comment or retweeting. I try to make it a daily thing where I check the hashtag Pathfinder2E on Twitter and retweet everyone who is saying that they're having an awesome time playing Pathfinder, or they bought the beginner box, or they just got the core rulebook and they're excited to play. Like, that's the lifeblood. It's not any amount of people who are putting themselves in front of a screen or a microphone. It's the people who are actually doing the playing, making the game what it is. And that's the ultimate thing. Is like, it's the subreddit is awesome, not just because of the mod team. PaizoCon or Pathfinder 2nd Edition is not going to be propped up because of a couple of faces on YouTube. It's going to be successful because of the people who join. And our job as moderators is actually pretty easy because we just intrinsically have a really great community of people, really supportive people, really welcoming people. As long as we keep that kind of attitude where we're welcoming to people, we're continuing to talk to each other, to work with each other, to help each other, the more and more this game is going to grow. And it's not just going to be a game, it really is a community. And that's what I love to see. Anytime that I have retweeted someone and then I see that tweet go viral, the person who has like 11 followers suddenly has 80 likes on their tweet because I was able to amplify them a little bit. Like, that to me is my job, is a helper. I always want to help people, and I love that you guys are doing that. I really, really do. That you're trying new games, and that you're not just playing them or trying to get famous off of them. You're trying to introduce people and inform them about how they can play games and be a person who can help people actively, like with your chat and stuff. So good on you guys. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been a lot of work. To be fair, I have the privilege. I can do this full time. I have a partner who allows me to do so, and it's been a lot of self-growth. Especially, I haven't been as productive as I have been recently. That's only been since like March or something. just getting on the ball, getting content produced. And we do a lot of different content. Every week we have a live play, we have a table talk, we have I'm now producing 3 videos a week. And then every month I add to my workload by getting another game system in to do a one-shot and a session 0, because people love session 0s. And it's been a lot of hard work, and I've been stressed out a lot, and PaizoCon was very stressful, but I thoroughly enjoyed going. And
good kind of stressful, right?
A little bit. As not having proper transportation was a big problem.
Yeah.
But on top of that, I was just falling behind on my work, and the algorithm on YouTube is not very forgiving of missing anything. So, you know, it's been an uphill battle for sure. But it's like what you said. I never want to outgrow my community in any sense. And we recently had a hostile commenter, and it was a situation that I was able to hop in, address, and unfortunately ended up having to ban them from the channel because it happens. And I went to the other person. I was like, you know, I'm so sorry about that. You should have received that in our comments section. I addressed it, and they were very thankful, and they're like, I'll tell all my friends about you and everything. And I didn't like sound blast the event. I didn't try to use it as a PR stunt or anything like that. It was just literally the privilege of having a small channel and being able to do so. And not only that, but recognizing that I will not always have the ability to do so. I will not always have the ability to talk to people who, you know, participate in the channel, which is always super unfortunate. And
that's
you're right.
Where I hope to fill in, honestly, as moderator, co-host, and like prominent community member. I work to step in as well on any of that too. Where Cam can't, I will completely, because if I saw that, only reason I didn't put my head in that situation because I didn't see it. If I saw it, I would have stepped in right alongside you.
Yeah, I got to it first, but
yeah, exactly.
You know, you're right. It's a lot of it is the groundwork. A lot of it is like the Reddit. A lot of it is the stuff where, you know, in the end, I'm just going to be a face on the internet, and you might get some interaction out of me on our chat here, but the more popular we get, unfortunately, the harder it will be to get any kind of solid interaction out. And that's why I like to promote from our Discord. You know, I get people in the Discord so that they can join our games, and so that I can play with people and get to know the community, at least a couple people at a time. And you know, I'm really bad at talking online. I'm much better at talking in person. And
suck at Discord. I am terrible.
I'm terrible at Discord too, so trust me, it's a struggle. I do my best. I come in and I pop in every once in a while. I'm a wildly independent person. If someone isn't asking for my time, I'm filling it with my own project work. So it's very hard for me to just sit down and dedicate time to talking. Being on Twitter is a big example and where a lot of my growth has been. But, you know, a lot of what I want to do is like, it's great that you want to work on, you know, the Twitter side of things, the Reddit side of things, promote people, get all that stuff going on. And what I want to do is I want to make it so that the content creator sphere, the community, has actually a community. I feel like a lot of content creators are their own little islands sometimes, cultivating their own groups and doing everything like that. I want more interaction. I want more people to talk to each other. I want more groups to have that interlacing and bringing communities together, because tabletop will only get to evolve when everyone gets to participate in the community in some equal levels of force. And it's
good that you have your Discord. I would not be able to have one. It would be everyone else posting everything, and then every once in a while, like 5 days later, I'd be like, here's a picture of my dogs. And then they wouldn't hear from me forever. So glad you can manage it. Frankly, I'm astounded that you can do live play stuff without the benefit of editing and people not being able to see your face and multiple takes and stuff. This would be terrifying to me to do all the time for my show. I'm just glad that I get to do it whenever I do it. I'm the worst. I'm the worst kind of content creator because I don't post content very often. My podcast doesn't come out nearly as much as it probably should for, real successful growth. It's more like, okay, I finally have a free weekend. I bet I can get one pushed out, and then I do it. Like having a schedule would be terrifying to me.
Yeah, but there's no such thing as a bad content creator. You might be a bad career content creator.
Oh yeah,
but
I'll never get rich off of this.
But you're still, like I said, even like running the Reddit and being on Twitter, I think that makes you a content creator in your own sense. Anyone who has been on the Pathfinder 2E side of Twitter has seen Rise of the Rulelords, logo somewhere in some comment or something. That's how I found you. That's how I wanted to meet you. I was just like, are you Rise of the Rulelords? And you're like, yeah, that's me. And we had a nice talk. I really wish we had gotten to talk more, but that was one of the few days I was actually had some stuff to do. Yeah. And I'm really glad we got to bring you on, and I feel like I've learned a lot about some of the stuff that goes on in the community because you participate in ways that I struggle with, honestly. I struggle with the Twitter side of things a lot. I have Reddit's a different planet to me. I've been on Reddit a very scant amount of times. I probably count on two hands the number of times I've been on Reddit in my entire life. And
it's a strange beast. It is a strange time.
It's a strange beast. It's a beast I enjoy. Just don't read the comments sometimes.
Reddit is great when you cultivate a very specific thing you're going to see and never delve into other stuff.
Yeah, very much. I kind of keep my front page, obviously I go on the Pathfinder 2E subreddit every day. I kind of keep my stuff to dogs and very, very light on politics. I'm very much a fan of anti-work. That gives me kind of a sense of zen from the times when I was a real retail worker and seeing all these people now like standing up for themselves, and that just brings a lot of warmth to my heart to see the mass unionization effort that's taking place. So Reddit can be a force for good. It's getting people talking about big important things, and in other ways, Pathfinder 2nd edition, rare puppers. I love rare puppers.
That's a good one.
Eye Bleach is one of my favorites.
Another quality one.
Another quality one. Anything with cute stuff on it, I'd probably have it subscribed. I love cute things.
It's very interesting because my Reddit front page is cute pictures, cute animals, and then in-depth competitive Warhammer talk, like right next to it. Like that's my zen. I'm like, yes, this nice point change. The new meta is changing, and then a very cute cat right afterwards.
It's great. And exactly like Ezekiel says here, cultivate your feeds. It'll make your social media, scouring much easier.
I've done that a few times.
Yeah,
it's important. It's like my YouTube. I always go onto YouTube and like every once in a while I'll snip it like a bonsai tree. Like, I haven't watched this person in 3 years. Beep. And I get a lot of the stuff. Twitter has been one of those I've been working on recently, just based on talking to people and making sure that I'm getting to see the people who are in the spheres that I participate in, and want to participate more in. Like, if you're ever on Twitter, talk to me. It's the only way to get me to talk sometimes, is if someone else can start a dialogue, I'm like, oh, fuck yeah. Finally, we can talk about this. And, because I was very quiet at PaizoCon because I have a very analytic kind of personality style. But once I'm talking to someone, I talk a lot. Me and Mark talked for hours, if that's proof of anything. And,
How
I'm
sore were you after that talk? I'm authentically curious.
Sore, like, as in my throat?
Because you just stood at the same place. I swear I went into a game and then came out and you were at the same place talking to him.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, of course standing is uncomfortable, but I've done retail and you have to stand all day for that. And I'm built sturdy too. Fortunately, I'm built with a decent build that can take some punishment. So I'm glad I didn't have to walk to the PaizoCon every day. The first day was the only day I had to walk over a mile to get to the PaizoCon. So it was I couldn't have done that repeatedly, but no, it was really good. Every time I got home though, I passed out. I was clinically dead for 9 hours before I had to get back up and go to PaizoCon again. So
honestly, hearing like Cam that you were standing in one spot for hours upon hours at end, just in a single conversation, like it's the least surprising thing I've ever heard. Like being your friend this long, I'm like, yeah, we've done that. Just like I hang out with you guys, and then it's like we're gonna play some board game, but we just talk for 5 hours about some random bullshit. Like that just happens. Like it's the least surprising thing I've heard.
That's my zen. Talking tabletop theory is my zen space. I could talk about, because I'm so fascinated. I'm someone who leans very narrative when it comes to tabletop gamings. I love narrative. I think evoking storytelling is one of the key reasons why anyone should play tabletop. It's one of the few things that you can only get at tabletop. I mean, I killed one of Alex's characters in a game, and it messed us all up.
Ooh.
Yeah, no, it was like legitimate.
One messed us up. The other one was.
One did.
And again,
how'd you kill him?
He slit my throat when I was asleep, so I couldn't do anything.
You bastard.
Yeah, no, heartless bastard.
I've killed very few players in my games, but Alex has such a great talent for evoking death marks.
I have a lot of characters that naturally pull aggro, where just they exist, and then it just turns out as the course of the game that it's like, oh yeah, this character, like backstory stuff or NPCs will either love them or hate them to death and want them dead. It's just usually how my characters go.
Yeah, what had happened was he was playing this cocky, like swashbuckler-esque kind of character, and he stole a dagger from like this assassin person who is working as an undercover like liberator from a warring nation, but it wasn't as pre-war. War hadn't come out yet, and they were making a liberation front on like one of this kingdom's kind of territories. If it found out that the other empire was involved, it would have been an all-out war, so they couldn't have had that happen. So they had to get rid of the evidence. And he bested them in combat, took the dagger they were using. It was like, haha, this is mine now.
Made fun of them to their face that they stole their dagger out of their hand.
And the assassin got away and came back and slit his throat in the middle of the night. And I did give a variety of opportunities, very difficult checks to survive, and he died. But it wasn't one of those like, oh, the DM wanted to kill my character. I had plans for this character. I had an idea, but it was just in my brain. That was like, yep, this is the natural flow of events of what's going to happen. And I've never had a more impactful character death than this character death. It messed everyone at the table up. We had to take like a month break afterwards.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it hit. And like there were 2 games back to back that both my characters had like very emotional, like that, like character death, and another character had like the emotional fall, like they're at the pit in like their hero's journey. So like it was a pretty rough time. Like, because that's the games we do. But yeah, no, it was a situation too as a player, whereas like this is like one of the first few like real serious games I've been in. This is my first character death, and the whole time I'm like, you know what? I am okay with this as the story's going. There was no point where I was angry that Kamba killed my character. Because the core reason happened too was we were in the best system of all time, and Beyond Fantasy. Which, yes, take my word for it. It is phenomenal and not horribly broken, badly balanced, and makes no sense. But I picked a disadvantage that he was a heavy sleeper, which normally his perception and like actual like notice skills are super high. He will catch anything in an environment, except when he wakes up for the first 10 minutes. He's a really heavy sleeper, and he's a not an early riser. So I had a giant debuff if I'm asleep or when I wake up. So any other moment I would have caught her and like probably like been able to fight back and beat her. Except for this one moment. I was like, you know what? This is fitting. I picked this disadvantage at the beginning of the game. Here's the point where it comes back to fuck me over.
Yeah, and it's, I don't kill characters that often. I abhor the idea of killing player characters before their time is due. Not that I don't like character death. I think the threat of character death is what makes storytelling more evocative, especially in a tabletop sense. But it's not something I do. But when the narrative calls for it, I can't help myself. I have to tell a great story, and it's one of those times. Like even recently in Riptide, I almost did a party wipe because they were warned that ships have been going missing in an area for some reason, and they were jumped by a legendary ghost pirate crew who nearly killed them all. In fact, 3 of them died, and if they didn't get slight help from a god, they would have all died. And even that slight help from a god, it literally was a critical strike from the last person, or one of the last few people standing, that won them the fight. If they didn't get that critical, they probably would have been my first ever party wipe. Which,
wow,
it was a legendary event. They also like almost leveled up one whole time from that one session alone, because it was most of them didn't have their armor on. They were caught in the middle of the night. It was a very disadvantageous fight. Whatever I threw in to help them was to balance the fight a little more than it was to actually give them a fighting chance. And that's our narrative style, though, is we're playing a game, but it's a narrative, and the chance of character death is what evokes a game. And I could talk for hours and hours. I've proven it already. I could talk for hours about how much I love the act of tabletop in general and like the community, and it's one of the reasons why I've dedicated my life now to, rather than working on a career that has a higher chance of making me money in a good living situation, dedicate myself to a gamble of a career that may or may not ever be enough. And because I want to make the tabletop space better, I want more people to get these experiences that are like, tabletop can be life-changing because it's your narrative, it's personal, and these characters that you make just evoke imagination in people, and communication skills are super important in tabletop as well. It's actually surprising how lacking the tabletop community is in communication skills sometimes for a game that's very communication based. But I think that's also just because it hasn't been very well expressed how communication should happen at a table or in the space in general. Critical Role has gone above and beyond in that. They have a very great crew. All of them are friends. Their characters have deep moments. They're very, they're very inclusive in their storytelling as well. And they tell all kinds of wonderful narratives. And I think that's a big help. But I think there needs to be a much more grounded space where other people can come in and touch that too. Not just like Critical Role, the top of tabletop. That's so, it's a pedestal that no one can reach now. So I think more grounded based communities need to come up and really express like, this is tabletop, and I feel like you're the same kind of tabletop player we are, which is good. I was stressing like, is he a grognard? I don't know.
No.
No, you proved that because he used the term. No grognard uses the term grognard unless they're one of those like self-appreciating grognards.
Right. Yeah, I my my style is. I describe my style of game mastering. I prioritize fun over anything else, which is hopefully what every game master is doing. There have been a lot of times where I've fudged rolls in the player's favor, where I easily could have crit them or killed them and decided not to behind the screen. Maybe do like a little bit less damage. I try to play the bad guys with true motivations, so animals don't think tactically. Sentient creatures value their own life and will surrender, not just always, try to fight people. A big part of being a game master for me is I really like to how do I say it? Bring people together. That's a bad. I mean, it's true. But I like to be the person that kind of knows what's going on, and the part that I get a kick out of is when I've told a good enough story that players are stumped where they should be stumped and amazed when they should be amazed. When if you ever get to a point where like fighting just seems or like constant battles seems like it's really wearing the players down and you're not responding to that, then I think that you're being a bad game master. I try to take that stuff into account as much as I can, which means a lot of suboptimal play, I would say, which I think is fine for being a game master. It is your prerogative to lose. You need to be okay with being beaten a lot, of being okay with your players having an awesome combo even when you don't get to do like a cool thing that you wanted to do. And yeah, so hopefully my style isn't like unique, because I want to think that every game master is doing something like that to some extent, but I have seen, those horror stories where game masters pit themselves against players, and that is at the very least the worst possible kind of game master. Is you are there to basically be a computer simulation in people's minds. You're the creatures that are meant to be killed. You are supposed to lose, or you are supposed to be a very giving person, and if you're not doing that, then your players are going to be miserable, and you're going to stop having players eventually.
That's true. Some people are desperate for games, though. I've seen some players stick out with some very terrible groups for way too long. It's
don't do that. There's always better GMs.
There's always better games.
Always a table for you somewhere. Just finding it.
That's the number one thing about running a Discord, actually, that I really want is we have a recruitment channel for people who want to recruit for their games. I want to create a space where people can more easily find games. And not only that, but once I have the capacity to do so, I would love to run, even for like a week or two, a 24-hour tabletop service where players can come in and play tabletop games, whenever they can or whenever they want. Even if it's not for a long period of game, a long campaign or something, just to get that tabletop itch out. Plus, unless I make like millions of subscribers or something, I don't think I could pay for a service to go on indefinitely. But no. I would like to do it as an event where people who want to play tabletop can come play tabletop, and to such a degree that people get like an event. It's like Ren Fair. You get to come and role play for a weekend and have a lot of fun. I'd like to do something like that for the tabletop space for all kinds of people like that. And I think that's what the tabletop community needs now. Is it needs more connections. It needs more connections, player to player, player to GM, content creator to content creator, content creator to viewer, all that kind of stuff. There's just, we can bring the community up as a whole if we work together. And I feel like what content creators have been doing has been great. It's been showing more people, and they've been doing their focus and everything like that. And I think that the only reason why tabletop is as successful as it is because on all levels, people have been doing their own thing and representing and showing, how much fun they're having and really expressing their own style. But I think now we need to start coming together and start doing stuff collaboratively. And I think we need to start, from top to bottom, just start expressing tabletop in its purest form, which is just a bunch of people getting together and playing games together and showing people how fun that is. Because, like I said, a lot of content creators, very few of them really do anything very collaborative amongst other content creators. A lot of them do have live plays, usually as like a secondary channel. I know XP to Level 3 has one. I think No Nats has one. I know a lot of them do that kind of stuff, but I
haven't watched No Nat stuff for a while, so I don't know. I do try to get as much collaboration with the community as possible with my podcast. My third one, I conscripted a lot of content creators to submit clips to me saying, talk to your players, and incorporated that in the episode that's coming out. I asked just in general everyone to send me voice clips of people saying the names of conditions like goofy Western villains. And I love it. I really wish that there was more collaboration and, seeing people guest star on each other's things. One idea that I had at some point was to have a like an ad swap where people could make their ad, and on like a monthly rotation put their stuff on someone else's podcast. That podcast has an ad that goes on someone else's podcast. So then, like, listeners for one podcast hear the listeners hear about this other podcast, and then, like, as Deadly D likes to say, a rising tide raises all ships, and the more that we all help each other out, the better off everyone ends up being. And unfortunately, sometimes people cloister themselves and they just focus on their stuff or what people can do for them. And I'm not about that. I really want to. I will be on anyone's show, and I would love for anyone to be on my show, or, like I said, run games, amplify their stuff. I love to talk about third-party products, which is basically free advertising for people's Kickstarters, but I I think that's important. Like, the more third-party content that we get for Pathfinder, the more the game is going to expand naturally. Like, you know, Wizards of the Coast posts, makes a new book, like every
They make a new campaign
5,
book.
6 months or something.
Yeah, they make a new campaign book like once every 4 months, and then like a new like actual rule book maybe once every other year, because
whereas most of the D&D content that I ever see is from third-party publishers. XP to level 3 posting his stuff, or Kickstarter. Every Kickstarter is 5e compatible. And the more that we can start doing that for Pathfinder, where people start having both 5e and Pathfinder 2e compatible adventures, or just Pathfinder 2e Infinite. Frankly, I think one of the things that Pathfinder 2nd Edition is missing the most is single-shot adventures. There's, society stuff, and Pathfinder has started to post like their own, or Paizo's started posting their own one-shots. But if people are able to add like their own single shots to Pathfinder Infinite, I think that would be great, because there are so many character ideas that people want to try and never do because they play these long form campaigns.
Yes.
Which there's definitely a place for it. But, you want to be the Kenrasu wrestler swashbuckler at some point, and you're not going to get to do that unless you have like a way to make like easily disposable characters. So the more one shots, the more short form games people are able to run, where you can just have a random character concept, run with it for 1 or 2 sessions, and then be done with it. I think would kind of get like some of the itch that I see from a lot of players, where they just are constantly making new characters that they know that they're never going to be able to play. That would give them a way to play it a little bit more. And having these one shots would also be a great way to introduce new players, where, if you're like, hey, do you want to come play Extinction Curse? This is going to take 2 to 3 years for us to get through the whole thing. Or would they be more receptive to saying, hey, there's this one shot that I got from Pathfinder Infinite. You want to play it for 2 nights? And then people try it, and then they want.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Shorter, sweeter stuff. I think Pathfinder needs more, and Paizo can't really provide it because it's also not all that profitable compared to the adventure pass that they're able to charge a lot more money for. So the more that we can kind of fill in that gap, if you have writer aspirations, design aspirations, make a one shot, put it on Pathfinder Infinite, and then tell me, post it on the subreddit.
Go to Twitter.
And Twitter. People are gonna. There are more people who will love it than you think.
Yeah,
is what I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the evolution of tabletop, is a style of tabletop that's non-committal. A way where you can keep your character, but have a roster of characters that can show up and do whatever, have a bunch of non-committal style stories, or just, be able to just play a different character, every couple weeks or something like that. A non-committal style game. That's why I like Lancer a lot, because Lancer, you do like contracts, and after you do a contract, essentially your character levels up, and that means you can swap characters if you want to. You can do different kinds of things, because every mission can be viewed as just a goal point for one character or another, and you can try something out and do something differently every time. Non-committal tabletop, I think, is where we need to go, because it's very hard to say, hey, I'll be there every Tuesday for the next 3 years. That's an impossibility for most adults, honestly. And
things change really quickly. Like,
yeah,
a commitment that's accessible for like a year is not accessible longer on.
So
Yeah,
I
it
definitely
can be
think
tough.
I definitely think there's a lot of room for growth, especially when it comes to short form tabletop games. So, you know, that it's yeah, we could talk all day for on and on and on. I really hope that we can have you on again at some point in the future, you know, talk about what's going on. I feel like you got a good sense, a good tap on the vein of at least you know, the Pathfinder community for right now. And you know,
Hope so, or I'm not doing my job right. Or
exactly.
job.
You know, hey, a life's work is a job, even if you don't get paid for it.
Yeah.
If it's something you dedicate yourself to, you know. I want to do more stuff. I definitely want to do more stuff with other content creators and like yourself. Like, I believe you're a content creator. A lot of people in the Twitter sphere I want to do more stuff with in general. And I want to raise this community up, even if I have to strap you on all one at a time and make the way up the hill myself. You know, hopefully other people see it and can share the load and we can all get there together. But, you know, I feel like nothing gets done if you never set foot to do it yourself. And so at least I'll start, and at least I'll try to breed a community of people who are inspired by the same kind of ideal that tabletop is not in its final form, and we can make tabletop, you know, something better. We can make tabletop something that more people. I want to make tabletop competitive with video games, and even if that sounds like such a strange idea to some people,
on its way. It really
I think it's completely possible. So it's absolutely great. And hey, Dagon, unfortunately, we're just getting ended here, but please go. Alex has been posting a lot, but please go check out, you know, Rise of the Rulelords stuff, Pete's stuff here. It's all really great. And follow on if you want to know what's going on Twitter. Follow him on Twitter.
Who are you, Dagon? Give me a hint.
Oh.
You and I did Pathfinder in real life. Really?
Oh.
Oh boy.
Ooh.
Wow,
You need
he's
to tell
actually. It's
Justin! Ah! Okay, cool. Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
He's actually in our Starfinder one shot, coincidentally.
Nice. Okay.
Sweet.
All right.
I love that. We're already starting. It's already starting to come together. We're all starting
Everyone
the
knows
blending.
each other.
But yeah, follow. Go ahead.
Yeah, follow me on Twitter at Rulelord2e. Again, on Rulelord2e.com, that goes to my anchor page that has been kindly posted in the chat, which lists all of the different platforms that my podcast is available to listen on. And if there is one that I am not on, let me know and I'll get it on there so that you can listen to me. And I kind of slipped it in, but one of my project ideas has been slipped into this very conversation. So keep a lookout for that sometime in the future when I get the time and willpower to actually get it made.
Excellent. I wish we had more time, honestly, because I could have kept talking about with you forever about, you know, all the tabletop. There's some of the stuff. I did some research. I looked at some of your stuff, and I kept a lot of it in the back of my mind as topics to talk about if we needed to. But I should have known that a bunch of nerds getting together to talk about tabletop, we were gonna fill the space without any need of aid. But yeah. Please, and like I said, also follow him on Twitter if you want to know everything that's going on. It'll either be liked and or retweeted on Pete's here Twitter. That's how I find a lot of stuff personally. So, you know, like I'm so happy we could bring you on. It really was a pleasure and something that I hope we can do again in the future, and maybe for some other kinds of content as well. Some other kinds of, you know, not just to talk, but to have some fun and play some games too. That would be a lot of fun. And
Totally.
also, I guess if you've enjoyed this, you want to see more of what we're building here at Bad Luck Gamer, please like, follow, and or subscribe on your platform of choice. We stream on both Twitch and YouTube. We used to stream on Facebook, but honestly, that was just not going anywhere, and it was too much effort for me in the end. I couldn't manage 3 platforms, so just Twitch and YouTube, where we produce all kinds of content here. Also, in the link in the description or in a link below on Twitch, you can join our Discord, where we talk all things tabletop, including things like Warhammer 40k. And as you heard in this stream, I also recruit there to play in any of the games I offer up on the channel. So if you want to play with me and my friends, you know where to go. Also, big stuff. We are going to be having our Starfinder one-shot, The Great Grav Train Robbery, on Monday, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And during that stream, I will also be doing another giveaway for some Pathfinder or some Starfinder merch that I got at PaizoCon. So if you want some minis, if you want some rule books or some playmats, we're going to have it there. Anyone can enter in to join. This last week was very interesting. It's the first time we did a giveaway, and I'm sending everything out. We're not going to do giveaways a lot. It's very expensive. Well, not very expensive. It's expensive for people who don't make money doing what I do. So, there's a price, but I'm happy to pay it because, 1, I have too much merch in my house, it's too small. 2, because I really want to make this place a fun place to be. And I think giveaways are fun. I think getting a chance to get some fun stuff here there. Actually, we got Alex's. Alex was the only one who didn't send me his info.
You have my info.
No, I don't. I checked.
So I straight up sent it to you.
Well, now, yeah.
I sent it to you a few days ago and you asked. I also assumed you knew where I lived.
I did not, because I checked our Discord comments and I was like, no, there's no address anywhere on here.
I'm a ghost.
So, yeah. So you're going to get yours on the next shipment out. It's great.
I'm proud of that.
And I'm also participating on Twitter. Don't be afraid to come out and talk to me and, see what we're up to. I got a lot more fun stuff planned in the near future. We're also getting close to that 1,000 subscriber marker on YouTube, where we can get back into the YouTube partner program and also get a lot more opportunities to grow both financially and on the channel as well. And a lot of the stuff is going to go right back into the channel. So whatever you all do offer to the channel will come right back to you as content. It's all an investment. So I'm very excited that we got to have this opportunity this time. And I just don't want to stop talking, but I guess we got to end it at some point. So how was your time here on the channel? How'd you like it?
Loved it. Love talking Pathfinder. Hope we get to do it again soon. So if this is the last thing, then I'll end on my tagline, which is, "Don't let the rules rule you."
Don't let the rules rule you.
Yeah, it's a great one. All right. Well, let's go ahead and say goodnight, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.